Arcane missed its mark. Now, it's still a good show, and I still recommend people to watch it, but there's some things that could have been done better and some things that should have been done better. Now, if you want the short answer, basically, they did what Game of Thrones did. Everything was great leading up to the point, and then the finale, just everything crumbled because they rushed it. Everything was just rushed at the end. Now, if you want the more detailed answer, stick around. Now, there's two ways to review the show. There's the non-league players, and then there's the league players. The non-league players, if you watched it and you don't play league or don't give a fuck about league lore, I would say it's basically a 10 out of 10. Almost! But if you looked at it from a League of Legends perspective or from league lore, then it was like a 7. I said it! I'm so sorry. I know. How could it be a 7? Gosh. I'll explain. Now, if you want to review from the first perspective, the non-league players, I think Penguin Zero did a really good job. He just took the show for what it is and analyzed it from there. And I'll leave a link in my bio or I'll leave a link in the fucking shit down there. The description. That's what it is. The description. Now, in this video, I'm gonna analyze it both from a regular TV show standpoint as well as a League of Legends player's standpoint. And I know that sounds cringe as fuck. I agree with you. But as a person who's been losing LP professionally since 2013, I think it's really important we actually look at it from a league lore perspective because that's what the entire thing is based on. Now, my first question was why Piltover and Zon? You have literally all these other options with all these cool characters. Why this? And I think one of the reasons was because it's the one with the most relatable characters, or it's just relatable in general, right? Like it's a progress city, right? It's about technology, and then there's also like the shady underside with the drugs and like the politics and whatever. Now the other reason I think they went with Piltover and Zon is because literally every other region is way more popular. Like, and if they went with the more popular ones, there's a lot more expectations, and expectations is pressure to pretty much make a perfect storyline. So picking this low-key region that nobody really pays attention to kind of took the edge off a little bit. And to be honest, they made the most of it. Now, the other thing that really didn't sit right with me was when they said that they were making the story of the show the main storyline. They were making it canon. I didn't like that. Mostly because it affects the lore of the champions in the game. Now, what do I mean by that? Is you've had like people who have mained the characters: Vi, Caitlyn, Jinx, Jayce, Heimerdinger, Ekko. By the way, I hate all of those characters that I just mentioned, so I have no like I don't care about any of them. You can remove those characters for all I care about, right? I fuck especially Caitlyn. Fuck it. Fuck that stupid champ. The main issue is that these characters have been released since like 2011, 2012, 2013. So literally over 10 years. And when you think about the people that have mained these characters, they've kind of grown a bit of a connection, right? I know it sounds really cringe to say that, but it kind of makes sense if you think about it. When you constantly play the same champ over and over again, you're listening to their voice lines, and then you're like, oh, let me see what this character's about, and you go deep into their lore, whatever, right? There's a bit of a connection, and so when you're coming in and saying, yeah, by the way, we're gonna make the show, it's gonna be different. Oh, and it's gonna be a new storyline. Think of it like, for example, let's put it like this: you're working at a job, and then new management comes in and they redo everything. Or if you have your favorite book series and then you hear they're going to make a movie about it and then you watch it and it's like it doesn't hit the mark. Or a favorite anime and they make a Netflix rendition and it's kind of, this is kind of like that. Now that being said, that's kind of why I think season 1 did so great. It's because it showed the origin of the characters and then brought them up to speed to their current state of the character in the game. Now, season 2 is where things start to get a little derailed. Right? Most of this video is going to be critiquing season 2 because like I said, season 1 is just literally about how the characters came to what they are right now. It's the after that's kind of questionable. And I think it has a lot to do with the whole Arcane storyline. I think it's a cool storyline. I think it's great, but it definitely should have been done differently, especially with the whole like Arcane Jesus thing they did with Viktor. But I feel like when you're introducing something that big, it definitely needs to be fleshed out as much as possible. Especially when you're introducing stuff that's not in the game's lore and something that people aren't used to already. Now we're going to move on to character development. I'm just going to jump straight into it. We're going to start off with Vi. Great in Season 1, became a sissy bitch in Season 2. I don't know why. Season 1, it was all punch this, punch that with my massive mallets, this, that, the third. And then like I literally lost count the amount of times she just broke down and cried in season 2. I get it, character development, cool, but the way you introduced the character, it was kind of like she's a hard ass. And that's what she is in the game too. She's a fucking hard ass. Now all of a sudden she's crying over this and fucking, oh, Caitlyn, oh, yeah. Shut up, you know? Shut up and throw your fists every once in a while. You know what I mean? Next up, there's Caitlyn. Good in season 1, great in season 2. And honestly, unfortunately, that's the only character that has that kind of good change. Right? She's a sniper. She becomes the sniper that she's meant to be, like she is in the game. So her story kind of ramps up like this. And season 2 is actually pretty spot on with what she is in the game. My favorite part about her was when she started running shit. Like her mom died, and then she became head commander, and then she went and told Salo to shut his bitch ass up. And he's like, I'm gonna run a strike team. Yes, that's what the pick up that. Yes, that's what the I'm talking about. But yeah, overall, her character development, well done. Now there's Jinx. Perfect in season 1. What the fuck did you guys do to her in season 2? She literally went from psycho, schizophrenic, maniac, nightmare killer to a sassy, depressed teenager. Why? And I'm gonna be honest, a main reason for her character development was because of Isha. Now, Isha became a fan favorite really fast. And the whole League community loves that kid now. But let me tell you something. I fucking despise that dog shit character. The worst addition to the show, hands down. I'll die on that hill. I'll die on that hill. Every single scene that Jinx was with Isha, Jinx became more and more tame, more and more numb. Just losing her maniacality, if that's even a word. And then, all that for Isha to come in, pull out the gat, and say, take care. That, what? Why would you? No, that's stupid. Don't do that. Now that brings me to my next point. When Isha Gangplank Q'd herself in front of Vander to save Jinx, that put Jinx at her lowest point in the season. Now, let's compare her lowest point in Season 2 to her lowest point in Season 1. Season 1, she had the fight on the bridge with Ekko, was put on the brink of death, and then Singed brought her back, and she hit an all-time high with her insanity. What did she do? She took Caitlyn, Vi, and Silco, tied them up, put them in the same room, and then after arguing with her own thoughts and voices, she emptied a clip in Silco, and then made Caitlyn and Vi watch as she Jinx ulted into Caitlyn's mother's council's ass. And that's how the season ended. What? Wow! See, now that's the Jinx that I know. That's the Jinx that's in the game. Now what happened in Season 2? Isha did her thing. Jinx got super depressed, ready to zillion Q herself, Malphite ult off the bridge, whatever. Ekko came to save her, and then she got like psycho for maybe a scene. She like cut her hair, put on that shark thing hoodie, came in on the flying balloon, and then shot the robots like 1 or 2 times, and then Vander jumped on her, Dragon Claw specced her, and she started freaking out. Oh my god, what is that? See, that's what ties into what I was talking about earlier with this whole Arcane idea. That's what happens when you're dealing with an Avengers level threat. Season 1, it was like humans and like, you know, other people that she was dealing with. Season 2, you're fighting aliens and all this jazz. Like, you can't be psycho. Like, you have to take it seriously. You know what I mean? Basically, I just didn't like the way they softened Jinx's character. I think they could have done a lot better. Now, on to Ekko. Season 1, good. Season 2, pretty good. There was a slight lore change, which I wasn't too upset about. I think the way he develops the Z Drive is a little different in the lore. But I liked how it ended up. Like, it tied into the story really nicely. I think it's also worth noting, specifically, Episode 7. That episode was perfection. That literally stole the show. I think when you think of Season 2, you think Episode 7. Not just because of what it did for Ekko's storyline, but also what it did for Jayce's and the entire story in general. Like, you have Ekko figuring out how to build his Z-Drive that ends up saving the day, and Jayce, how he finds out that everything is fate, and he's going to lose the battle. And I think that was really done really well. Another quick thing to add, I think that bringing Ekko back from the alternate dimension and then throwing that inconceivable device at Viktor was a really good touch. But it didn't sit right with me at first because it reminded me of Game of Thrones. Right? Like, the main discourse around why that show went sour was, well, one of the things was, they teased Jon Snow versus the Night King for literally every single season, and then Arya came in. Kind of like the same with Arcane, where it was like Viktor and Jayce were friends, turned to enemies, and then Ekko came in. But again, this one's a little different because, like I said, Jayce was teased that they're going to lose this fight, and then Ekko came in and, literally from an alternate dimension and fixed things. There's not many things I have to say about Heimer. I think in Season 1, he had a really good presentation despite not having much screen time. But Season 2 was just, I don't know. It's just this was the start of one of the unsatisfying things that happened in Season 2. His unwarranted death. It was so lame too. Like all that happened was a wire went loose when he was doing that thing with Ekko, and then he went and plugged it in and just died. I didn't even know he died. That's the thing. I didn't even know he died until I went and rewatched. I was like, oh, he's not there anymore. Right. You could have given a more meaningful death. Like nothing. You didn't do much with that death. And then for Mel, I think she was in Season 1. She was good character with a mysterious motive. The whole time I was confused. I was like, is she really good? Is she on their side? Is she an enemy? Kept you on your toes a little bit. In Season 2, her whole storyline with the Black Rose and her mage abilities, way too fast. And again, unsatisfying. A lot of these other characters had like a season and a half to flesh out their lore, really. Mel had like 2 episodes. She got like sucked in one, got challenged in the other one, and then became a mage in the third, and then killed her mother. Okay, all right, I guess. On that note, the whole thing with the Black Rose, again, way too fast and unsatisfying. The Black Rose is like a really big deal in Noxus, and there was so many different ways that storyline could have gone, but all it did was show us that Mela is a mage, and then the side villain, which was the Black Rose character, just like died with one like Super Saiyan move. Okay, all right, I guess. And also that storyline happened in literally 3 episodes. Hey there, it's me in post. I recorded that several weeks ago, and because I suck at editing, it took so long that the Season 3 trailer actually came out. And now you can kind of ignore what I just said about the Black Rose. They're going to make the whole Season 3 about the Black Rose, which is sick! So I guess what they wanted to do was just to introduce them in Season 2 and then work on them in Season 3. I still think they could have done things a little different, not rush it so much, but it does increase my rating of what they did to the Black Rose fidget spinner. Now, speaking of Ambessa, I think in Season 1 the way they introduced her was great. Good, strong character, pretty scary. Season 2, really random and unsatisfying death. Right? I'm going to say that a lot in this, I feel like in this next section, just unsatisfying. That's what it was, really. Now, like I said, Penguin Zero goes into detail with this, and he does it well. But from a lore perspective, I'm not too dissatisfied because this character wasn't in the game. This character was introduced in the show before it was introduced in the game. So people really didn't have time to develop some sort of connection. Like they didn't have time to main the character or get to know their voice lines, whatever, or their abilities. So from a lore perspective, I don't really care, right? But again, it just felt flat. Now for Warwick, he was Vander in Season 1, so I can't really say much. But the way they teased him becoming Warwick was done really well. His teasers in Season 2 were also done really well. And then his introduction was perfect too. Like that's exactly how I wanted it to happen. Just bloodthirsty, Vision is red, looking for death, right? Everything after that was pure ass. First of all, I don't know why they went with that character model, but they did. I tried to get used to it. I was like, okay, this is cool. Didn't sit right with me. Every time I went back to playing League, I was like, wow, this Warwick is just so much better. Why didn't they use it? But my number one concern with the character that I haven't seen anyone else really bring up was how they started calling him Warwick randomly. No question, just all of a sudden, oh, Warwick is this, Warwick is that. Where did the name come from? They just randomly started calling him Warwick, right? I don't know, like maybe adding some backstory to it would have been nice. Otherwise, just it felt weird. The last thing with him was him being tame when he saw Jinx. I get like it was for the story, kind of makes sense, but again, in the game, he's never. There's not a second in the game or in the lore or even in the champion spotlight he was released with that he's tame. every single second he's like looking to maul someone and just feast on them. Everything about that character is violent. But I get it. For the story's sake, I guess they wanted to change some things, which is, well, you know what? It's not the end of the world. Now, for Jayce, the main man, at least one of them, nothing too bad I can say about it. Like, he was great in season 1, great in season 2. Simple. Everything was like really closely related to his lore. There was only one, like a couple tweaks were there, but the main change with his lore was how he went into the Arcane and then came out, right? But the fact that Riot released a skin before those episodes came out really helped with that, right? Because sometimes in the game, skins have their own lore, so I think this really helped ground that motivation switch, that character development. A lot of people were complaining about, oh, it's a spoiler, oh, it's this, but I think it was a really good decision because now it was kind of like, oh, so this is how he got to that position. This is how the skin, this is the story of that skin. So I think it was a good idea at the end of the day. And again, I'm going to have to relate back to episode 7 because that's where a bulk of his motivation switch, his character development comes from. I just think that was great. That's where you find out, like, oh, we're doomed. It's guaranteed loss, which again adds more weight to what Ekko's doing, right? He only knew that they were going to lose because Ekko was in a different dimension. Cool story. Now, for the other main man, Viktor, season 1, it was really good. I loved how it was leading up. Season 2, out of all the lore changes they had in the show, Viktor's was the most unhinged. And again, it ties back to this whole idea of the arcane and the supernatural shit. Just to sum up what the original beef was between Jayce and Viktor in the original one was basically they both wanted to use Hex Tech to help fix Zaun, and then Viktor kind of got way too obsessed, and he started making these machines that would basically take over the user. He would like take out the fear factor in them, give them super strength, whatever. And so Viktor got way too obsessed with that, and then Jayce was like, "You're losing it," and that's what caused them to become enemies. In the show, Viktor becomes literally Arcane Jesus. What the f? Everyone's lore was like either like this, or just, you know, fucking whatever. Viktor's was just take care. What the f? Like, he was saved by the Hex Core, became a healer, put into a cocoon, okay. And then they're showing how he's evolving, which, by the way, that character model is hands down the best thing I've ever seen in any show. Viktor's end game model was amazing. But why did you only show him for one episode? He literally popped out in the very last episode and that was it. Why? And that's another thing. When they turned him into Arcane Jesus, they kind of took away from Ryze's whole entire character. Ryze is known for being like way bigger than just like a mage. Like he's literally saving everything from everyone and everything, right? And so when they teased that whole like there was that one scene with the palm and there was like the world spinning in it, everyone was like, "Oh my god, that's Ryze lore." No, it was Viktor. Excuse me. How did we get here? Now, in terms of making him the time-traveling guru that Viktor became, I think that was fine. Again, a little rushed, but again, it kind of made sense at the end of the day. But again, not League related whatsoever. Aside from characters, the one theme that I really didn't like was the characters' deaths. I hated every part of that. I don't understand why you would kill characters that are currently in the game. Something just doesn't sit right with me lore-wise. Like, the reason Season 1 was so good was because it brought everyone up to speed with the character's state in the game, like I said. So now when you finish that season, you go into a game like, oh my, this is the lore behind these voice lines. This is why they're doing this, whatever this, that, the third, blah, blah, blah. In Season 2, when you're trajecting the future of their lore, and it turns out your character that you're playing is dead, I don't know. Kind of pissed me off, I'm not gonna lie. It's just like, this is how my character ends up? Yuck. Another thing that makes these deaths worse is that the game came out before the show, right? Like, if the show came before the game, right? For example, Game of Thrones. You watch the show, you know how all these characters end up, and then the game comes out, and then you can kind of relive the characters. Like, oh, this character died, now I want to go relive his story because I know what's going to happen. Or whatever. You get to relive the character. But when you've been playing the character for 10 years or more, and then all of a sudden they just die, it's just like, oh, what the fuck is the point of playing my character? Again, this is more like a Bond kind of thing, which I don't know. It sounds weird every time I say it, but it makes sense. It just kind of loses its like value of playing the character. I don't know. It just feels weird. Basically, to sum it up, season one was better than season two, mostly because it followed the lore of the characters. You know, the team had their work cut out for them. All they had to do was just follow the lore and make the story of the characters into what it is today. And I think this is what allowed them to kind of have fun with it, right? Like they were throwing up Easter eggs, like they had the Jin mask in one of the episodes, and they were just kind of in general just appealing to their OG fan base. It was for the league players. And to be honest, I think that's what made the show so great. Not only the fact that they were showing how the characters came to be, but also showing their abilities and those origins. Like when Jayce switched his hammer to melee form, and then the fact that they used the same sound effect in the show that was in the game. I creamed everywhere. I absolutely exploded all over my keyboard. I'm sorry, okay? And honestly, the same goes for all the other characters. Like when Caitlyn got her upgraded sniper, or Viktor with his cane, and then his claw, and the fact that he said glorious evolution. You know, Ekko with his Z drive, Vi with her gauntlets. You know, it was just major, huge fan service. The only issue I had with that was the characters didn't really use their abilities after they did it the first time, aside from Jinx. Like, for example, Vi used her shield ability once in Season 1 and never again. Heimerdinger just never even got to show his abilities, which is like, I get it, he's not the combat type in the show, but something would have been nice. Viktor, he only used his E once. That was it. Nothing else. And to be honest, I wasn't too mad about that at first, because they did say they were going to rework Viktor to match what he is in the show. You know, everyone had their time to shine in the show with their abilities and whatever, except for Viktor. And I was like, you know what? Maybe they don't want to use too many of his old abilities, so they can make some way for the new one that they're gonna release. So I got to thinking, I was like, you know what? What did he do in the show? How could he be similar? Well, he did some healing stuff, so maybe he has some healing powers there. He did a lot of interdimensional time travel stuff, maybe some stuff themed around that, and he controlled robots. So maybe he's gonna have like a robot minion type of thing. Nothing was changed. They kept the same abilities, their same stuff, just changed his artwork. Now, that either makes his rework redundant, or it makes literally all of Arcane's storyline redundant. None of that sat right with me at all. You basically reworked his whole identity and kept his kit the same, all the while not showing any of it in Arcane. And I'm not just saying this because I'm a Viktor main. No, I'm just like, come on! I was waiting for him to show the shit. What the? Now, with all this being said, bottom line, Arcane Season 2 was trying to tie too many loose ends too quickly, and it definitely could have used a third season. Now, if you liked what I had to say in this video, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share, comment, like, subscribe, shaman, shema, and bust a fatty. Okay? If you didn't, go fuck yourself. Take care.